Views and opinions expressed by the guests and contributors on Conklin and Company are not necessarily those of 13 ABC. Now, Conklin and Company continues with Take 3, commentary and analysis from our panel of political contributors.
All right, Take 3 now, and a lot to talk about with Tom Troy of The Blade and Skylar Meadows from The Juice. The call letters or the frequency once again is
FM 107.3.
Okay, there you are. And it's interesting sometimes Skylar's on this program competing with herself on Sunday mornings. So, but it's great to have both of you on with so much to talk about. Let's start with Adam Martinez and Larry Sykes. Adam Martinez wins the general election by 39 votes. And here we are, nitty-gritty time. We're going to know those provisional counts, the count tomorrow, Tom?
Monday.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Right. Monday, possibly the day after. The plan is to finish the vote counting during the week, and then on Monday run the tallies and report those totals. So we'll find out whether Larry Sykes is able to get enough votes out of the provisional count. As you know, there's the election night count, and then they add in the provisional ballots, and it takes 10 days to count up the provisional ballots. And sometimes those can change in a close race, especially where there's, in the city of Toledo, where you have, a lot of Central City votes. This changed in 2010. It's why Carol Contrada is the county commissioner now rather than George Saranto.
Well, what is that part and parcel with a recount? Because you have 39 votes, the provisionals, but then you have an automatic recount because it will be so close.
Recount, there will be an automatic recount. There's no reason to think that the recount will change anything, but there is reason to believe that the provisional ballot could change, and Adam Martinez, who clings to this narrow number of votes, could be outpolled by Larry Sykes, who came in 7th. This was for the at-large seats on council.
Your thoughts, Skylar, on where this might go?
Well, I think like we were talking about the same thing with Contrada Saranto back, a few years ago, but it still says provisional votes matter and voter turnout matters. If you're hanging on by 0.02, wow.
Yeah, and that count was 25.5%. Tom?
Is that what we ended up with? 25.5%?
Like that,
Okay. So still not decisive. That's the other thing. Right. So
like that, but about a quarter of registered voters.
Pins and needles for Sykes and Martinez, though. As we wait for the results. Here we are with the transition team. D. Michael Collins announces it, and I said at the outset, what's old is new again, or at least what's familiar is new again, because you have some very familiar faces. You have Mr. Ford, Mr. Finkbeiner, Mr. Reinbold, and then we have some union representation with Ray Wood, but a lot of familiar faces, Tom Troy.
I'm not sure it would have been a surprise to people to see union representation up in that transition meeting, but to see so many from the Finkbeiner administration brought back in, it give you a feeling of deja vu. Is this the 4th Finkbeiner administration to come in? And I do think Mike Collins is going to be his own man, but it must have been a shock to people to see the news and read the news coverage and find so many people coming back who had been in the government in the past. We've had a government that's been operating for 4 years. What happens with them and all the work all the momentum that they've got, all the projects they've got? Now this transition committee from the past comes in and takes over.
And we've heard that for years, that it is the good old boy network. Is this an extension of that, Skylar?
Could be. I kind of thought it was Cardi 3, but yeah, I forgot he had the 2 terms together. So, I mean,
it is hard to keep track.
It is hard to keep track. We just know the name. But, I mean, I think the thing about this is we have to remember we're not that many years. We're, 20 years removed from having a strong mayor. And we've only really had, 3 strong, 3 strong mayors. So, who are you going to pick from? You would not pick the person you ran against, so we knew it wouldn't be Mayor Bell.
Cardi, Jack, Ford,
and so that's all.
Mike
so
Bell,
that's one. But also, Ford was out there having fundraisers with Collins, so obviously he supported them. But if you think about it, who are the stalwarts, period, of the city of Toledo and unions that would participate if that's who Collins will draw
Well,
from?
I can only harken back to the time that Mayor Finkbeiner was in office, and
Which time was that?
Well, you had 12 years.
That's what I'm saying.
But of the time that Mike Collins took him to task.
Yeah.
As a member of council, and they were at loggerheads and said, "Come on, part of the team."
Right.
Well, it's going to be different, though. You know what? Something to watch is, what if Cardi? I'm just thinking aloud now. What if Cardi gets appointed to that District 2 seat, and then you have 2 former
mayors? But he says he's not coming. Right?
Yeah.
Cardi says a lot of things too. Come on.
He doesn't think it's going to happen, but he doesn't rule it out. If they
he
want,
never rules it out. That's what I'm saying.
The question is whether Cardi will be working behind the scenes to try to get the party to give him this nomination, this endorsement. But you know, Frank Selassie has already put his also put his name in, and he
But
would
what's
be
old is new again.
talking
Frank
about
Selassie.
same, yes.
Right,
and these
right.
guys, Selassie and Finkbeiner they butted heads
Yeah.
almost as much as Collins and Finkbeiner did.
Well, the question is, who gets along with Collins enough to be the appointee? Or the broader question is it the council that we know now or the council after January 1 that does the appointment? Those are two different bodies.
And don't rule out a Republican or independent.
Why not?
Because District 2 is really is as Republican as it gets. It still
Absolutely.
votes independent.
Right.
That's not relevant, though, when the council's
Ludeman-
Democratic leading,
but
isn't it?
Right. In the appointment, the appointment will most likely go to a Democrat, but then there will be a vote in May. And just because you get appointed doesn't mean you're going to win the
Well,
election.
we've seen that.
happen.
We've seen
in-
that.
Right,
Yes.
we've
Case-
seen that
case
over
in
and
point
over and over
in
again.
November.
Right.
Absolutely, Sean
Or-
Enright.
We're talking
Right.
about Sean
Earlier
Enright,
this
and in the
month.
past, there's been a couple of people that have been
Taylor
appointed.
Balderas, many
Laura
others.
Santiago.
Right.
Art-
Kind of a fascinating
Jones.
dynamic
We've
looking
been
forward
around.
now at the face of this city government, and in it, an economic development director who may make a lot more money than the current position pays, from 92 to 132,000. That
Right.
Collins proposing that raise says, hey, it may not get to that,
Right.
but you need to offer that to attract the attractive candidates. Skyler, you're shaking your head. How
I
come?
am. It's
Why?
disgusting. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. Why would you elevate someone to that level of pay with the aspect of balancing it by decreasing your staff by 4? You probably need those 4 people. You haven't been mayor yet. You
Well,
don't
but in the
know.
public sector, you might say you have this person who can do an incredible job, and they're making a lot more than $132,000, but they're willing to come here for 132.
You can see the logic. You can see the argument being
Right.
made, but you don't expect it to come from D. Michael Collins.
Right. That's what I'm
That was
saying.
sticker shock
Watching
number
those
2.
pennies
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
every
right.
single
right.
day.
Right.
But now's the time for him to get that stuff out of the way.
Get what out of
The
the,
tough
way?
stuff,
That what I said on the
before
campaign
he
trail
actually
is not
starts.
what,
Yeah,
what I'm
that's
going
right,
to do,
right.
so that the city's
He's going to have
informed of that.
there's going to be a lot of things he said on the campaign trail that he is going to have a hard time making come true as mayor.
One thing we don't have a problem with is the mayor-elect, a substance abuse issue. And we don't know. Let's morph into this situation in
Okay.
Toronto, which is almost, I mean, unbelievable to watch this unfold with Rob Ford in Toronto. The city council stripped away 60% of his power, making him pretty much a ceremonial figurehead, if you will. And then we had a situation down in Florida where another lawmaker admitted to using cocaine as well. So as you look at that, and then you look at what we have here, it looks like we have our act together. But your observations, looking at the situation in Toronto, in this mayor who's become the butt of late night jokes all over the place. Scott, let's start with you.
Well, I think that drug usage is something that cannot be hidden. If you're actively using drugs and you're falling down high or you're making irrational, like they had that clip of him being very irrational, somebody's going to find out about it and use it against
Just in the
you.
vulgarity in
Right.
talking with the press.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
Right.
Huh?
He needs rehab.
Right, and then this congressman in Florida, Republican, elected with Tea Party support. It shows you how pervasive drug use appears to be. We
Right.
don't realize it until it bursts out like this way. This past week we had
Mike DeWine comes
Mike
in,
DeWine
right?
telling us about a heroin epidemic that seems very real when you look at the numbers of deaths that have been occurring, doubling each of the past 4 years.
It can happen to anyone, I think.
No question, no question. And to say it doesn't happen here is wrong. And obviously, there are people dealing with issues every single day in Northwest Ohio and across this country and across this world. We thank you so much for coming in. A lot to talk about today. Have a great Thanksgiving.
You
Good to be
too.
here.
Skylar
Thank
Meadows
you.
and Tom Troy. And we'll see you next week on another edition of Conklin and Company. Can tell you that Mike Collins will be on this program 1 week from today. We'll talk about a lot of the things that we talked about this morning. Make it a great Sunday, everybody. We'll see you next week on Conklin and Company and this week on 13 ABC Action News.